UAP, unidentified anomalous phenomenon. Are they extraterrestrial, interdimensional, time travelers in origin, or are they simply a result of top-secret military projects, false flag alien invasions, PSYOP, drones, or other human-made aircraft? Join the discussion now on UAP Crossfire.
Hello and welcome to UAP Crossfire. We're here to discuss unidentified flying objects, some anomalous phenomenon, strange booms in the sky, an update on the fires from LA. We have a thrill-packed show for you tonight. I'm Dan Padre Carlson. With me tonight, the one and only Chris DePerno. Chris, how you doing?
Good, Dan. How are you, Padre?
I'm great here in western South Dakota. It was sunny and 56 degrees today.
Hey,
Tomorrow
it was snowing and 19 degrees here.
Yeah, we're supposed to be 20 below by the weekend. And joining us from the heat of LA, we have Don Ecker. And Don, how are you faring out there?
Well, a lot better than we were a week ago, Padre. Let me tell you what.
Mm-hmm. Let me just start with you, Don, because for those who are not aware, it's been a very tense last week for our friend Don. He is right there in the thick of the LA fire situation. Tell us what you went through and give us an update on where things are now, Don.
Well, originally, my wife and I have been in this home. We bought it in 1994. And during that period of time, we are in a canyon, okay, in the mountains, right? Not very far from the Los Angeles forest. And we have had some strange encounters here. And I'm not talking UAP. At one point, I had a mountain lion on my back wall. Okay, My former little dog, a blonde Cocker Spaniel, Miss Jade, we had a rattlesnake come under the front door and bit her, almost killed her. Ooh. Okay, I've done in about 6 rattlesnakes right at the front and the back. I mean, it's been exciting. And then twice, okay, here, we've been evacuated out in 2008 and again 2017 by these wildfires. Now, thank heaven we had no overt real damage. We've had some smoke and a lot of debris from the fires, what have you. But this time, it was truly terrifying. I put a note up on Facebook a few days ago with what we were enduring here. It was a minute-by-minute thing. We fully expected that the fires would hit the hills right around us. Thank heaven they did not. But we had our go bag at the front door, ready to grab the dogs and get out of here in like 2 minutes flat. But somehow we were spared. But the areas around us, I'm telling you, the closest I could ever compare this to anything that I've experienced would be when I was in Vietnam, okay, right before I was wounded. We were being swamped literally by the North Vietnamese army, and that's exactly what it felt like here. The area around here, just a couple of miles away from us, looks like the aftermath of a bombing campaign. That's how bad it is. Now, there is a groundswell of anger and even rage going across California. And it basically is directed at the so-called leadership, the governor, the LA mayor, they were noticeably missing in action. Newsom, the governor, okay, I'm just going to say it. This guy couldn't find his ass with both hands, a full-length body mirror, and a hunting license. Okay? And the mayor of LA, Karen Bass, she was in Africa, literally at a cocktail party when LA started to burn. Okay? And this is the same person that swore when she was running for election that she'd never leave California during her tenure. This was international trip number 5.
Wow.
And she had recently, now get this, had recently, for purposes of having sufficient money for homeless, had cut the fire budget in LA by $17 million. And she had another cut that was prepared to go through just before the flames. Now,
Don, what do you complain about? They saved the Delta smelt.
yeah, they
The
did.
fishies
didn't they?
got fresh water, and you're complaining.
Well, 25 people are dead that we know of. There's still a dozen or more that are missing that have not yet been found, and they very likely are dead too. But if you saw the extensive damage and ashes that's out here, 25 would be a small price to pay. Good heaven. It is extending from one end of the county to the other. And then, okay, on top of that, they've been arresting freaking arsonists going around trying to set more fires. All right. Arsonists and looters are infiltrating into the areas that were burned. They've already busted about 20 or more of those people.
Wow.
And the majority of them, almost entirely, are people with illegal immigrant status.
Wow.
Now, Newsom, the governor, okay, had declared California a sanctuary state, LA a sanctuary city. And I mean, you know, look, if I sound somewhat outraged, it's only because I am. The caliber of leadership we have is zero. And Bass, from what I've heard, okay, right now there's an effort to recall her, boot her ass out of the mayorship, and the same thing with Gavin Newsom. And that could not happen soon enough. So yeah, we're in a bucket. Hey, once again, I'm just going to tell you how it is. We're currently in a bucket of shit. All right. And nobody has stepped up. Have you heard from any of our legislators? The irrepressible Adam Schiff, Eric Swalwell, okay, any of these people, not one of those sons of bitches have stepped up to talk to the public about anything. So yeah, I'm a little upset.
Understandably. I do want to ask you, though, about some UAP video associated with the fire that's circulating on the web. People are seeing flying objects that they can't identify in the smoke. There's one that I saw that has one of the fire bomber planes going by, and you see crossing its flight path behind it. It, from the perspective that the camera was on, it looks like it's a cigar-shaped object moving very fast, about 3 times the speed of the fire bomber. Have there been any news reports of that kind of activity that you've seen locally there, Don?
No, I have not. And I'll tell you, I've heard about that, and it is on the surface interesting. But boy, I would have to see the provenance of that who took it, what the circumstances were, where it was. I mean, there's a whole slew of questions.
Yeah.
And I'm at the point where, Padre, I believe very little, if anything, that comes from the internet.
Okay. Now, there's another phenomenon that's been reported in both of your neighborhoods. Strange sounds in the sky. Some people have said they're sonic booms, but if you've ever been around jets and know what sonic booms sound like, they're not sonic booms. Have you heard any loud noises, Don, there in your area that sound like explosions in the sky?
The last time I heard an explosion in the sky was about roughly 24 years ago when the shuttle was making a landing, was flying over going to Florida.
Oh, yeah.
And that was a heck of a boom. But no, I have not heard any booms. But hey, booms in the sky are not totally uncommon. And it could be any number of things, including meteorites coming down that detonate before they impact the surface.
Yeah,
that is one thing. The other, of course, are supersonic military jets, Air Force jets. But no, I haven't heard. I've heard about the phenomenon, but I haven't heard the sound.
Chris, there have been reports of these things in the Northeast as well. Have you seen anything in your local media about these strange sounds in the heavens?
No, the only thing I've heard is Don rant. That's about it. I mean, I get it all the way up to Buffalo.
Well, what we have here, I want to talk about these booms just for a moment. We have some tape of them.
Could it be trumpet sounds, Padre?
Yes, trumpet sounds too. Let's go ahead.
That's a little worrisome.
Yeah, go ahead and punch those up if you can, Bill. Now, I don't know about you guys. That's not a jet sound. Almost sounds to me like artillery. You've been around artillery, Don. What do you think?
I was going to say it sounds like the detonation of an aerial bomb.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, artillery. That's somewhat of a different animal. But I know what you're saying. But this sounded like the detonation of maybe a 500-pound bomb. So what do you think, Chris?
I got to tell you, just the sound alone, it certainly wasn't, breaking the sound barrier.
Right.
So nothing like that. It's some kind of explosion, Don. Like you said, it could be something but a bomb. But within that range, hearing that, you would see a smoke, flash, something to go along with it. So it's either higher up in the atmosphere where you're not going to see that. But I don't know. That's really strange. I've heard of this phenomenon before, but I've never seen a video of it where they actually recorded it.
The interesting thing is for it to be that loud and to actually, you saw how it shook the camera. These have been reported in New Hampshire, in Utah, in Idaho, Colorado, Canada at Banff and Montreal, and recently also in Charlotte, South Carolina. People do not see any flash. They do not see any flame or smoke. These are strong enough to locally set off seismographs. And that's concerning.
You said there was trumpet sounds too, right?
Yes. I had sent a video earlier to Bill of those. And that, speaking in my pastor role now, that's really interesting. When you start hearing trumpet sound going into the heavens, it's just an incredible, right out of the Bible. And when you hear these things, and I'll try to get them later in the show if I can find them again, they are almost like a shofar, the ram's horn that you hear at some Jewish festivals. It sounds almost like one sounds and another one sounds, and it's right out of Revelation.
Yeah, isn't it like almost when the beginning of the end of the world starts? There's supposed to be some trumpet sound.
Yeah,
the horsemen come down, and
the 7 years of trials and tribulations are supposed to begin with trumpet blasts in the sky. And of course, angels in the heavens too. And we're seeing a lot of more people coming forward and saying that these things that we are seeing and interacting with as non-human intelligence may be interdimensional or spiritual beings. The most recent person I heard discuss that was Michael Schellenberger. That's his best guess. And we think that there was a recent interview that Tucker Carlson had with somebody who was saying the same thing, that he's leaning now that these are spiritual or living organisms. I've seen a new word in the news, and you guys can comment on it. I've never seen it before. Plasmoid. What are plasmoids?
It's some type of organic material that, from what I understand, it's interdimensional. Mm-hmm. It's not of this realm.
Right.
It's sort of, the best way I can describe it is you see that goop from the Ghostbusters. It's just, it's like that material that comes through from a different dimension. I mean, it's I don't know, an after effect or something like that.
Now, the way I heard it described is living beings made out of plasma. That's new to me.
But it's that energy beings. Now, we've had reports of energy beings. So, I mean,
in the Islamic religion, mm-hmm. the jinn, which is what you and I, from the standpoint of Christianity, would refer to as demons, right, are allegedly creatures that are formed around fire. They are fire creatures, the jinn.
Okay.
So, that is, I think, something to take into consideration too. But whatever it is, I have, over the years, I've become more and more accepting of an explanation that some of this is interdimensional.
Well, they've said it. I mean, remember, I think it was Luna came out of a briefing, skip briefing, and says they never used the word extraterrestrial. They used the word interdimensional as they were getting the briefing. So that was a telltale sign that we're probably being visited by stuff from interdimensional, spiritual. Mm-hmm. Remember what Tucker Carlson said, and this always stuck with me. Mm-hmm. He said when he found out what he thought was being briefed on what this really is, it frightened him so much that he wouldn't even talk to his wife about it, and he doesn't want to know anything else about it. Mm-hmm. He says he practically closed that topic about UFOs and all that, because what he was briefed on by somebody he claims is very reliable, it scared him, kept him up at night. So I couldn't even tell my wife about it.
Now, for those who say they've gotten close to the truth, you have Neil Armstrong in Antarctica. You've got these people talking to Tucker Carlson. You've got people on Capitol Hill coming up to people like Mr. Elizondo and saying, read your Bible. People who find this so disturbing that they can't even talk about it. Do either of you have any inclination as to what that might be that so terrifies them?
Don, you want to go first?
Yeah, sure. Did I ever send you my paper on disclosure, Padre Dan?
No, I would like to read it, please.
Okay, I will. I'll send it. I apologize for that. 8-9 months ago, maybe even a little more, when the disclosure thing was on everybody that's affiliated with this field on their lips, I sat down and I began some deep brain wool gathering. Now, I've been doing this for a long time, and being the director of research for our magazine for over 20 years, you can imagine the number of people, that I encountered, that I interfaced with, the number of cases, the documents that I've seen, and it goes across the entire UFO spectrum. Mm-hmm. I knew Colonel Gordon Cooper. I knew Ingo Swann. I knew very well John Lear. Names that come out. I've been to Bob Lazar's house, okay? Lou Elizondo ghosted me 3 times. He didn't want to sit down with me. All this kind of stuff. I've known these people. I've talked to them. And over the years, I've kind of gotten together with a consensus within me of what I think may be happening. And here it is in a nutshell, if you haven't read my paper. This is a multifaceted subject. There's no getting around it. It goes so far beyond little green men and lights in the sky that it would make your mind boggle, okay? Mm-hmm. And if there's at least one separate sentient race here, there is more than likely as many as 7, 8, 9 that are coming here. Now, we may be an exit off the intergalactic highway, and that's one reason why they're dropping by. And only God knows what else may be an explanation. But in all those years, and I've talked to many, I've talked to people in the Pentagon, I've talked to people in NASA, I've talked to every skeptic in this country that's worth mentioning, all right? And one thing became very clear to me. If there's more than one group here, it's obvious they don't all get along. Okay. Now, I basically, back in the early 90s, I broke on national TV and in our magazine 2 huge stories. One dealt with, and this one actually I originally broke on an appearance on Larry King Live on CNN in November of 1991. And it was the Phobos 2 encounter. Okay. Now, what that was, back in the mid to late 80s, all right, on a certain level, there was still a Cold War going on. But on a certain level, because the Soviet Union was still in existence, and NASA had some type of working relationship. The Russians launched 2 Mars probes. Now, nobody knew this in the West, okay, because nobody talked about it. But NASA and Glavcosmos, the Soviet Union's space agency, were working on a possible program for Soviet cosmonauts and American astronauts to go on a joint mission to Mars. And at that time, they were looking at a time frame of around 2015 or so. Okay, that's 10 years ago. But at the time, it was in the future. And on these 2 missions to Mars, okay, that they launched, the first one, which was Phobos number 1, Phobos 1, after they launched it, they lost it. The Soviets lost it. And they blamed that at the time on a combination of human error and computer error. However, Phobos 2 got to Mars and took up an orbit around the planet. Now, Phobos 2 had an extremely powerful laser on board. And I met and interviewed over a weekend Colonel Marina Popovich. Now, Colonel Marina Popovich was the top female Soviet aviator in the Red Air Force. She was a colonel in the Red Air Force. She had been married to General Pavel Popovich. These people were the cream of the cream of the cream of Soviet society. Now, Pavel Popovich, her former husband, had been the first human astronaut or cosmonaut to ever rendezvous with another spacecraft in orbit. He did that back around, I think, 61, 62. If you remember, or if you were around then, okay, this is what freaked out the American establishment so much that the Soviets were far and away in front of us in space exploration. Yuri Gagarin was the first guy that they launched up into outer space. At that time, our rockets, for the most part, were still blowing up on the pad when they were trying to lift off. This was a very shaky time. Now, Marina Popovich, when she got over it, this was after the collapse of the Iron Curtain, okay? And I, through a former Russian citizen here in the LA area who was helping escort Colonel Popovich around, okay, I got in touch with him and said I wanted to meet her and interview her. So we ended up doing that. And I had been in very close contact, as a matter of fact, he was a very good friend of mine, with ancient language linguist and archaeologist Zacharias Sitchin. Now, Sitchin is the guy that put the term Anunnaki on everybody's tongues. He wrote a series of books that are called collectively the Earth Chronicles series, which details what he believed he transcribed from ancient Sumerian tablets, the first ET civilization allegedly that came down to Earth, and they were on a hunt for, among other things, precious metals and other items of import to them. And the labor became so arduous that they ended up deciding that they would take early ancestors of what today are human beings and genetically tinker with them to create the atom, the worker, basically a slave race. Now, a lot of you may already be familiar with that, but the bottom line was these alleged extraterrestrials hailed from a planet in our solar system that's on the far reaches called Nibiru. Now, whether that's real or not, NASA's still looking for it by all accounts, but that was kind of to give you a heads up. Now, in the ancient text, it stated that these creatures, these beings, all right, had put colonies or installations on a number of planetary bodies, not the least, which was Mars, the moon, and other areas where planetary bodies are extant, like the moons of Saturn or Jupiter, for example. Now, did they? Who knows? But with that being said, all right, Phobos 2, when it was sent to Mars, was to utilize that laser to fire a series of very intense beams into the Martian moon Phobos. Why? Well, for one reason, they wanted to find out what it was made out of. So if they did that, they could analyze the resultant gases, okay, that the laser beam would have caused, and they could figure that out. Now, why did they want to do that to begin with? The original idea between the Russians and the Americans were if they went to Mars on a joint mission, they would use Phobos as the first step of where they would land, and then use that as a stepping stone down to the Martian surface. Now, Phobos and the other moon, Deimos, okay, Fear and Terror, those two moons were never even discovered until about 1877 or so. Now, we certainly had fine enough astronomical telescopes and what have you that they should have been discovered long before that time period, 1877, or right around that date. But they weren't. Now, in the Soviet Union, there were astronomers at the time, and I can remember reading about this in magazines like Fate and some other magazines of that type, where the Russian astronomers were beginning to think that someone had put those in orbit around Mars, because basically they suddenly popped up. Now, there's something else weird about those two moons. They're in a retrograde orbit, both Phobos and Deimos. And there's no good explanation for why they are in a retrograde orbit. Now, when Phobos got there, it started taking a series of pictures. Now, I had mentioned Zachariah Sitchin. Sitchin was originally, he was Jewish from the Ukraine. His family was from the Ukraine. Somehow, they escaped the Soviet yoke of tyranny, and they emigrated to Israel. His family emigrated to Israel, and that's basically where Sitchin grew up. And like I said, I knew him for years. We had many, many, many conversations. I don't want to get sidetracked with him, but the bottom line was he developed a fascination and a curiosity about tales coming from the Bible. And of course, that was the Jewish Torah. We regard it as the Old Testament.
Right.
And one of the stories that blew Sitchin's mind was Genesis chapter 6, verses 1 through 4.
The Nephilim.
And in that,
The Nephilim.
Yes.
Their origin story.
The sons of God looked down upon, and I'm paraphrasing, looked down upon the earth, found human females quite fetching. And they said, let us go down and take as many wives and concubines as we want. Ergo came the issue of the Nephilim. Mm-hmm. Now, Sitchin wanted to know exactly what in the heck does that mean? All right. And that's where he got off on his search for the Anunnaki. Mm-hmm. But getting back to Phobos 2, as it's up there, it photographed Mars. And lo and behold, Sitchin, from one of his sources, then in Russia, contacted him and said, we discovered hot spots on Mars.
Like thermal?
Hotspots.
Like thermal hotspots?
Hot spots.
Okay.
Hot spots.
As in temperature. Right? Yeah.
Sitchin became convinced that the Anunnaki had come back to Mars and reactivated ancient bases. And that's where they were getting the thermals from.
Okay.
But something else happened. One of the photographs that Phobos 2 took showed a huge ellipsoid shadow, a cigar-shaped shadow, reflected off the atmosphere of Mars. Now, that's something a lot of people don't know. Mars has an atmosphere, okay? Not
carbon
oxygen. There's a little oxygen, very little in it, but it has an atmosphere, and it was enough to show this shadow. And then when Phobos 2 was maneuvered around and it was sitting off of the actual moon, Phobos, it saw something that blew everybody's mind that saw the photograph.
Do tell.
And that photograph was an object, an ellipsoid-shaped object. You can find it online on the internet. The Phobos 2 image,
I've seen it. Yeah.
of this. And the Glav Cosmos described it as a 25-kilometer long object with a kilometer in width. In other words, something that was 15 and a half miles in length. Now, if, and I'm only speculating, if this was crewed by living beings, obviously they scanned the Phobos 2 probe. And this is the freaky point that makes everybody crazy when I mention it. This object turned toward Phobos 2. And the Russians said something rammed our spacecraft, turned it into a spinner, we lost it. Well, that happened. It may have seen that laser as a dangerous weapons system, and they took it out before it could be fired at them, at least from their perspective. Now, that is I mean, look, I gave it to you like it happened. Now, there are a lot of people out there that will say, oh, no. That photograph is a computer glitch. Well, not according to Glav Cosmos, it wasn't.
Right. Yeah. So let me try to unpack some of what you've been sharing here. We started the discussion talking about the various races. You had postulated that there's enmity between these races. I want to get Chris in here and get his opinion, because he's also investigated many UFO sightings of aliens. Chris, main alien groups. We've got the Greys, we've got the Nordics, we've got the reptilians, we've got
praying mantis.
Yeah, praying mantis. We've got the angel-like ones. From your investigation,
The progressive liberals. They're not from this world either.
Oh,
I had to throw that in there. I'm sorry, Don.
Which are predisposed friendly, and which are hostile?
Well, guys, let's start with the Greys. The Greys, people are now believing that they're organically grown. Just because of some of the information I gotten, that they're not like a being. They're more like believe it or not, like a plant. Well, I was told by somebody who was at Area 51 and S4 that these Greys are grown as to be worker bees, and they take substance through their skin. They absorb protein. As a matter of fact, they had to call in some special botanists when they actually had a live Grey, and they had to make a protein paste for him that would be able to be absorbed through his skin, and they excrete from the skin. Now, remember, there's a lot of people who have experiences with Greys say they smell. They get some terrible odor and stuff like that.
What do they smell like?
What?
What do they smell like?
Well, they say they stink. I don't know. They got BO.
It's a foul odor. It's not a fragrance.
No, it's not like sulfur. I was thinking the same thing. I said, well, if it was sulfur, then I'd say, pal, we're talking a whole about another type of realm right there. Yeah. But anyways, so you got them. Then you got the praying mantis. Supposedly they're spiritual. People who have had encounters with the praying mantis, they say they're, very enlightened, very spiritual type of being, insect, whatever you want to call them. Then they got the reptilians, who are, I guess, evil. You know, they're draconians, they're meat eaters. They, are very hostile. They believe that this type of planet should be theirs, not ours.
So, quick question here. A quick question on the mantis, because in our nature, the praying mantis is a voracious predator. I mean, it's incredibly bloodthirsty. These apparently do not show that tendency.
No, and surprisingly, that's not ever been the hostile one. The hostile ones, from what people have told me, have been the draconians, the lizard type, reptilian type of thing, and people have said those are the ones that there's. And Don and I talked about this today. He was telling me the story I told him about Jimmy Carter, of course, was a very spiritual president. Mm-hmm. And he was briefed on this, and Don and I were talking about how when he was briefed, he put his head down and he started crying. Because, I mean, whatever he was told really disrupted him so much that, I mean, he sat behind his desk and cried. But also, Ronald Reagan was briefed. President Reagan was briefed, mm-hmm. and he was told there's 3 species visiting us that are just here to observe, but there's one that's absolutely hostile toward us. Okay. So some presidents been briefed on it. Some presidents haven't been briefed on it. There are, and just like anything else in this world, in other worlds, in other dimensions, mm-hmm. I'm sure that one of the laws you can count on is that some are good and some are bad. Yeah. We're going to have good and evil, and no matter where we are in this universe.
Let me just ask you guys this, stepping in again from my knowledge of religions and spirituality. When we say good and evil, we are basing our perceptions on what are generally accepted norms of good and bad behavior. Mm-hmm. When we impute our moral code to these other beings, it may not necessarily fit with what they think. C.S. Lewis, who is a well-known writer, he's deceased, of course, but he wrote a book called Mere Christianity, and in that he observed that no matter where you go on this planet, in various cultures, they all seem to have the same moral code, in the sense that stealing is wrong, murder is wrong. Basically, 10 commandments are wrong. When we say a battle between good and evil, and we assign, those values to these kinds of beings, is there anything to suggest that they also adhere to the same moral code that we do? Comments?
Don, go ahead.
Yeah, my code personally is very simple. Speaking in the terms of good versus evil. Mm-hmm. All right. Now, there are 2 kinds of evil. There's an evil with a small e, and then there's an evil with a capital E.
Okay.
All right. And if you see someone that is dying of thirst, mm-hmm. you give them water. Okay. If they're cold, you put a coat or a blanket on them. If they are hungry, you buy them something to eat. That is just being a responsible human being. Evil would be, for example, my current situation here in sunny Southern California. Looters going in, once again attacking people that have already lost everything, and by basically scavenging the bones left of their livelihood, their life. Mm-hmm. That is evil.
Yeah.
All right. Taking some of those refugees in because they would need shelter or food or water or whatever. That would be, and also, hey, a lot of people don't even think about this. My wife and I do. We are huge animal lovers. All right. There's right now thousands of domesticated pets that if they've managed to survive this Holocaust, all right, they're out there cold, alone, and scared. It's rescuing them also. So, that's where I come down on the good evil thing. Someone that would take advantage of someone in this situation. Hey, there's nothing more disgusting in my book than that.
So when we talk about extraterrestrial or interdimensional beings, and we talk about evil behavior, Chris, in your investigations, what races do you recall being involved more in doing things that we would say violate our moral code and our
all of them?
All of them?
All of them.
Even the mantises?
Even the mantises. Everybody, remember one thing. Higher level beings are both good and evil.
Okay.
I mean, let's look at ourselves, and then we could look at everything else. All right, so we here like to look at ourselves as good people, but yet we go to war, we wage war, we demonstrate, we have violent stuff, we commit crimes, and during the time of everybody's life, there is a chance where they have to make a decision. They have the ability to choose, and sometimes they choose wrong, which could be construed as evil. Well, now going to the extraterrestrials, if you take me out of my home at 2:00 in the morning without my consent, you bring me to a place of unknown origin, you start taking things from my body without my consent, you put me in such fear, whatever your reasoning is, to me, that is evil. It may be for the betterment of their civilization, but they didn't come and ask me.
Right.
I mean, if I look at a human, I'm an extraterrestrial. If I say I'm an extraterrestrial, I'm looking at a human as nothing but a lab rat, which I believe that sometimes they look at us. You don't have the right to do that, but they don't have the consciousness to say, we got to ask these people first, because you know, and I know, Padre, that if the aliens came down and said, hey, we need this for our civilization, or we needed to do these tests, there were people lining up outside the door, blocks, miles to give samples. But how they do things is demeaning to us, because they put us in fear. They put us in a situation where they harm us. They create pain, and they don't think anything of it. And they think by wiping out our memory that it doesn't develop in some form of PTSD. What they do has after effects that ruin some people's lives.
I've heard this called the hitchhiker effect by people who've had encounters, say at what is that, Skinwalker Ranch, or they've encountered something, anomalous, a creature, and it follows them home. And they have high strangeness in their home that follows them. That, to me, speaks of demonic activity.
Right. Well, 2 Navy SEALs tell this story that they were contracted to be security at Skinwalker Ranch, and they talk about this portal opening up. They didn't see a beam, but there was a voice that said, "Get out of here, go."
Wow. And
they did. They left. They go, "Here, give us our paychecks. We're out of here." But whatever was there followed them home. You're exactly right. And it somehow or another, these beings or spirits or whatever can attach themselves to people, in some form, because we've had reports of that. We've had, people say, "Hey, listen, I'm constantly being, taken or examined or visited," and their stories are credible.
Yes. And now, as a pastor, I can back that up in that when we're counseling somebody who who is having these kinds of experiences or something that we suspect might be demonic oppression, we can almost always go back in their experience and find a time when they opened a door, maybe unwittingly, or maybe a door was thrust upon them without their permission, and it was just something that they experienced. But this attachment takes place. Classic case in point, Ouija boards. People who mess with those in childhood often have visitations later on in life. And that's one portal that, any exorcist or priest will tell you is often unintentionally opened in youth. Guys, I want to get our producer, Bill, give him a heads up here. We're going to do the trumpet sounds in the heaven. We have several clips here that have covered things that we've discussed in this first hour, and I don't want them to go to waste. So, Bill, if you could have the trumpet video queued up and ready to go, let's listen to some of these sounds in the heavens that are taking place. Go ahead.
It's been going for 30 seconds.
For the past couple of months, several people have been hearing mysterious sounds coming from the sky, and I've noticed a pattern. I'm going to show you guys 3 videos that may actually prove that these are underground constructions, but why? This first video is coming in from Banff in Canada. Pay very close attention. This next one's coming in from Colorado Springs. It's a very similar sound. Check this out.
Listen. Whoa! Stay inside, baby. What the fuck is that? Okay, but really, what the fuck? Please tell me you guys hear this. Wait for it. What the fuck?
So there is a pattern. The first one was in Banff, right? So check this out. So we have these mountains, follow them over down here to Colorado Springs. And then we have it also happening in Quebec and Montreal. So we have a perfect triangle. Someone is building something, but why? Check this out. This is Montreal, Quebec.
Okay, guys, so we have some pretty creepy sounds, all similar in 3 distinct areas. I don't necessarily know what he's talking about, somebody building something. That doesn't really make sense. The triangle is interesting, but what are your thoughts? Let's go with you first, Don.
Well, I'm flummoxed. I have no idea what to make out of that. It's certainly, there must be a source for that. Mm-hmm. But if you remember a number of years ago in Taos, New Mexico, mm-hmm. there were people that were being driven insane by something called the Taos hum. Do you remember that, Chris?
Yes, I do. Yeah.
Yeah. And that was never discovered. I don't know what to make out of this. Maybe it is Gabriel up there with the children.
What do you think, Don? Or Chris?
Well, if it is Gabriel, I'm getting a case of bourbon and a lawn chair. Because there ain't a whole lot I'm going to be able to do except get drunk and see where I'm going to go.
Yeah.
No.
So let me let Bill know we're going to go down to the UAPs associated with the wildfires in LA. We have. Can we put up first, Bill, the still image that's a freeze frame from the video? Let the guys take a good look at that still image. It's fuzzy, but you kind of see that cigar type shape. Now let's go to the video and see if we can see it in motion.
And we are going to see those winds picking up.
So the reason that was a person talking and they slowed it down so you could actually see it because it goes by so fast. But thoughts on that? Chris, you go first.
Drone
in that shape?
Well, drones come in all kinds of shapes. I mean, the ones in New Jersey were long, obligated. I mean, there are different shapes and different types. I'd have to see that actual video at regular speed and just kind of have it analyzed before I would say it's a. Why wouldn't they stick around and watch? Why just fly through it?
Yeah, and
that's
why
the one thing that makes me suspicious. That if you're going to observe us, you would normally stop and observe actually what goes place, not just fly by. But
and why hide in dense smoke? You can't see anything. So unless it's one of ours taking smoke samples, I don't know. What do you think, Don?
Yeah, I would go with the idea that it could be some kind of a drone long before I would stretch out to anything else like ET. I would be hard pressed to do that. It very well may be a drone.
Well, here's another one. Go ahead, Bill. Let's put that one up.
Just recently starting to, come on the brink of being expired. We are going to see those winds picking up. And, it won't just be for today. We are talking about winds that are expecting to continue over into portions of tomorrow as well. So
I don't know if it was hard to see at the beginning, but it looked like a sphere in the lower part of that video. And we're starting to see more of those in reports of these metallic spheres. Any guesses on those, guys?
I would say that that used to be a big thing back in the 50s and 60s. We saw spheres, and then it went 70s, 80s, went to triangles and boomerangs. And now I'm getting more reports of spheres coming back. So is it a different species? If it is a UAP, UFO, I still like to call it UFO. Is it a different species or a species coming back to see what we're doing again? Okay. Sort of periodic observation of us?
Well, on that question, it's time for us to go to a break. Let's go out of the break with a look at what Commander Cobra is up to. He's not here tonight, but he sent us a picture of something that he's involved in. So, Bill, take us in. Oh, dear. Looks like he's having a close encounter of his own. So, all right, we'll be back in just a few minutes here on UAP Crossfire. Don't go away. Welcome back to UAP Crossfire. Dan, Padre, Carlson here with Don Ecker and Chris DePerno. Guys, before we get into our second hour here, just a little cleanup from the first hour. Don was telling us the story about the Phobos images, and our producer says that he actually has those. So if we could take a look at those. Don, maybe you can narrate this and tell us what we're looking at there.
Well, that appears to be the shadow that was reflected off the Martian atmosphere. Okay. Now, that's an even better one. All right. Which is once again reflected off Mars' atmosphere. Now, Bill, do you have the, okay, there's one, but that's not the photograph. Marina Popovich gave me a photograph that came from Glav Cosmos that showed that object off the limb of the Phobos moon. I don't know if Bill has that or not, but look, there were two things I wanted to mention. Mm-hmm. First, let me do a little self-promotion. This past Monday, originally I planned to do a show on my program, Dark Matters Radio, that begins on Monday afternoons out here on the Pacific time zone at 4 p.m., 7 p.m. Eastern. But because of power outages, internet outages, I had to cancel it. But I'm planning to do it this coming Monday, 4 p.m. Pacific time, 7 p.m. Eastern, on this upcoming DMR show. Now, the other thing was Chris was talking about more and more of these circular objects being seen. Now, this is something that I was told at my father's funeral in 1986 by my sister. My dad passed away. He had some issues with his heart, and he had cancer, which they attributed to his service in the military. He worked around a lot of asbestos and other things. It ended up taking his life. He was only 59, but I had never heard this. In 1970 or 71, when I was in Vietnam, one day my father was out back cutting grass, around mom and dad's house, when suddenly he came running into the house. This is what I was told by my sister, screaming at my mother and her to come outside. Quick, hurry up, go, go, go. And this is what she described. Now, I never knew what to make of this because it's quite freaky. But she said there was an object a couple of 100 feet above the house that, was in the shape of like a boxy refrigerator with what looked like antennas sticking out of it that was flying around the house. And then suddenly, boom, it took off and it was gone. Now, sounds like a UFO, but it wasn't a circular UFO, and it wasn't a cigar. I don't know what it was.
You said like a refrigerator?
Like a flying refrigerator with antennas sticking out of it.
Well, I'm going to transition here, if we can, to what is being promoted as humanity-altering disclosure that's going to change the course of history, and it's coming within the next 72 hours. So let's talk about Dr. Stephen Greer, who says that he is going to, over the course of the next 3 days, introduce us to vetted whistleblowers who claim to have worked on and have firsthand knowledge of gravity control technology, reverse engineered UAPs, and directed energy weapons that have been developed with alien technology.
Now, when this is over, I've got a story about Greer, personal experience that I want to relate.
Are we going to get sued with it, Don?
No.
Okay. Folks, this is his story, not ours.
Yes. The views and opinions expressed by Don Ecker are not necessarily those of the staff, management, and sponsors of UAP Crossfire. Don, tell us.
In 1990-91, all right, this was the time period that that Greer entered the fray. And he called my wife and I up at UFO Magazine and wanted to have lunch with us. We didn't know him, okay? Didn't know him. He didn't know us. So we met at a trendy LA restaurant downtown. And very nice guy. Back in those days, he was basically Everybody was calling him Dr. Greer. He had been an emergency room physician. All right. So it wasn't just Stephen Greer, it was Dr. Greer, MD.
Sure. Yes.
So we're sitting there, and we had just gone to press with the new issue of the magazine. I had done a story in there on several cases where human beings had been harmed, several in an intensive way, by encounters with UFOs. All right. Yeah. Now, I got to tell you up front, I am somewhat conflicted because of all the people I've talked to over the years, all the cases I've taken a look at, whatever. There have been some good things that have happened over those years, and there have been some things that, quite frankly, were terrifying that happened with encounters with UFOs. So anyway, he's sitting there talking, and he laid out his ideas about the UFO thing from his perspective from start to finish. They are here. They are good. Okay, they're here for our benefit. They are going to help the human race transition into the next whatever, okay, next epoch, all right, of human existence. Well, like I said, I just finished this article. And I said, whoa, wait a minute, Dr. Greer, just a minute. It's way too early to make that determination that they're here for our good. How do you know they're here for our good? Well, if they've mastered the technology to fly here from another star system, okay, they could take us anytime they want, if they wanted to. They haven't. They've been here a long time, which that is true. Okay, people have been seeing these things going back to biblical times and before. If they wanted us, hey, if they wanted to, and perhaps at some point they did, if you believe Sitchin and others that have researched ancient Sumerian times and their encounters with what they called the gods, all right? But something changed. Now, I personally think that the change was the Younger Dryas event, when the Earth suffered a catastrophic series of events that not only changed the face of our planet, but probably destroyed uncounted millions of human beings that were then alive. But at any rate, I said, look, I just did this story, and I laid it out, okay, with all my T's crossed, all my I's dotted on what I found out in this article. And quite frankly, we got into a somewhat heated argument. His maintaining that they're strictly here for our benefit, I think, is at best naive and at worst downright stupid. That's my opinion, okay?
Right.
But at any rate, that was the last time that we ever had any meetings or encounters with Stephen Greer. Now, his organization was something else. And there was a kerfluffle in the mid-90s when we did an issue of UFO magazine called Cults or Cutting Edge. And there were a number of UFO cults around. You may be familiar with the one Bo and Peep, okay? Marshall Applewhite and others. There was another guy by the name of George Green, okay, that had a cult, and a bunch of other smaller ones. But they basically took on the tones of a religious, fanatical type church experience, if you know what I mean.
Yeah.
So we did this issue. And in passing, only in passing, we mentioned Greer and his organization. And oh my God, lo and behold, suddenly at UFO Magazine, we were being attacked at all sides.
Yeah.
So at that time, Greer was working with another physician, an MD, out here on the West Coast. And after we ran that article, and like I said, we said nothing detrimental about these people at all. I get a letter from this doctor associate friend of Greer's, 15 pages.
15.
Okay. 15 pages where he was excoriating us about our, negligent reporting, blah, blah, blah. And then he challenged me to a debate on CompuServe. And
I haven't heard CompuServe in ages.
Yeah. Well, I told my wife, I said, why would I do that? I've got a radio show. Okay. I'll invite him to come down to my radio show, which I did. It was called UFOs Tonight. Very popular show at the time, carried on the cable radio network, CRN. And 2 hours later, that guy stormed out of the studios.
Ooh.
Because, quite frankly, we ate him for lunch. Now, it is one of those kind of things. You see, that's one of the problems with this field. It's kind of like, my God, it's kind of like trying to talk politics to the opposite end of the spectrum. There's no middle ground these days. All right. It all becomes a contentious, adversarial deal. All right. Where logical, thinking and common sense. Well, unfortunately, guys, it's not so common anymore.
So could I just kind of summarize your view of Dr. Greer is skeptical? Highly skeptical. Okay.
And then, then add another skeptical on top of that.
Okay.
I could go, look, I was an investigator.
Right.
Okay. When I stick my teeth in something, they stay stuck. And I could tell you other things about this, but like Chris was concerned about, I don't want to get sued. So.
Yeah, let's not do that. Mr. DePerno, your evaluation of Mr. Greer.
Well, the first thing, if I ever get a chance to meet Mr. Greer someday, Dr. Greer, I would ask him this plain and simple question. What have they done for us? You said they're good. They're here to help us. So they've been here for thousands of years. They haven't done a damn thing. I'm telling you, they haven't cleaned the water. They haven't cleaned the air. They haven't given us medicine to cure cancer. They haven't done anything.
Let's see
but I can give him examples of theories where they were bad. I could go right back with the Anunnaki. What did they do? Yeah. They said, hey, we're slaves. Okay, you go from there. Okay. Bob Spearing, one of the best UFO investigators I've ever seen in my life. Bob has found a story where an orb comes down and destroys this village. And so you have that story. You have abductions that were horrible. Just like Don said, physical injuries, post-traumatic stress. I mean, terrifying people. So I would ask him, I say, now I got all these stories. Tell me one thing that they've done good here.
Yeah.
Because I can't find it.
Right. So now we have another person who is claiming to be revealing groundbreaking new evidence. Jeremy Corbell has a 3-part series on Tubi right now this weekend. And I've only seen the trailer. He is on Capitol Hill. We see him interacting with various congressmen and congresswomen. We see him talking to Mr. Elizondo. And it seems to, at least the trailer centers around the Immaculate Constellation document. And I believe, if I understood, it's kind of a hard trailer to follow. If I understood, he has produced the author of that document and is introducing that individual to these Congress people. So we have this discussion going on. But there's some interesting quotes from the trailer. There's Congressman Matt Gaetz, I guess I should say former congressman. He resigned his position and is now a news commentator, I believe. But he was active in the UAP field while he was there. And he is quoted as saying, not quoted, it's him saying on camera, that there are seated members in the Congress who say that there are non-human intelligence beings that have bases on Earth right now.
I would believe that.
Yeah,
that's an old story.
That
goes back decades.
So when we talk about bases, okay, those bases have to be somewhere. Mm-hmm. And I would think that, for instance, I would hope that our government would look askance at an alien race having a base on our land. So who's letting these people or these beings set up shop? Where are these bases?
What if they've been here forever, Padre?
Okay, so
and I'm talking. Look, there's actually 3 possibilities that I'm aware of. If you guys can think of another one, by all means. But first possibility is they're extraterrestrial.
Okay.
They're coming here from another star system. Mm-hmm. Now, back in the 90s, for about 20 years, I did some very in-depth research on extraterrestrial facilities on the moon. Okay.
Oh, okay.
The far side of the moon. Yeah. The side we call the dark side. It's not really dark, but back there. The side that never faces the planet. Mm-hmm. Okay. Mm-hmm. And there's a heck of a lot of data that suggests that's been there for a very long time. All right.
Still active?
So if they're coming from another star system,
okay,
every time they come here, would they want to just fly here, do what they're going to do, and then leave? No, they would have to have bases. Now, after the Stargate program was revealed, mm-hmm. a number of people that were involved with the Stargate documented their alleged encounters while remote viewing with these extraterrestrials. Okay. One guy, and I can't think of his name right offhand, but I have his book and I have his DVDs where he talks about 5 extraterrestrial or 5 alien bases on the planet. Okay. There's one up in Alaska inside a mountain. There are a number allegedly on the ocean floor. And hell, if you get right down to it, there's one right off of Santa Monica, California, out in the bay.
Antarctica.
Well, Antarctica too, sure. But Santa Monica, for God's sakes. Now, my now dear deceased friend, Richard Saraday, okay, who did a lot of shows with me on this, had been a very well-known actor, movie actor, television actor, okay, and then he got into teaching, and he used to come out on Fridays and Saturdays out to the house, my studio, where we would do DMR. And he had his students in his classes would come to him about going down to Santa Monica because these kids claimed they had seen saucers, UFOs, coming in and out of the bay. Now, Richard unfortunately got sick. He and I never met, but then he passed away. So, but that story has always stuck in my mind. But let's take a look at what's possible. Number one, extraterrestrial from off-world, another star system. Number two, interdimensional, okay, where they're popping into our reality for God only knows why. And the third possibility, and this is one that I've become increasingly more interested in, is the theory that before the Younger Dryas event and the Great Flood, all right, that reshaped the planet, there may very well have been a very advanced human civilization, okay, that had the means and the wherewithal to see this event coming and evacuate out. And sometime later, they returned to Earth. But when they did, they went underground. Now, you think about that. If you scour the records, there are a lot of very strange stories that crop up about these alleged underground dwellers that are human. They could walk down the street in front of you, you wouldn't know the difference. But for whatever reason, they decided to not stay on the surface unless they're doing whatever it is they do. So those are the possibilities.
So a concern that I have, just if I step back from my pastor to the time that I was a meteorologist, did a lot of earth science. When you talk about bases in the ocean, there are a lot of factors one needs to overcome to do that. First off, people don't realize, of course it varies, but generally speaking, the deeper you go, the darker it gets. And sunlight in most cases doesn't get much beyond 200 feet below the surface. So that means if you're going to be down there, you're going to have artificial light sources. You're going to have some way of surviving the incredible pressure. This interaction of forces when, say, an object comes out of the ocean, and let's say it would be the deep ocean, we're assuming that it would have to be deep for them to hide. And then there you have, several times the atmospheric pressure on the thing to go into outer space where there's no pressure, just the stresses on a vehicle.
Right. But Padre,
yeah,
I those are valid points you put up, but if I've traveled light years to get here, what do I need headlights for? I could probably, I don't think they need lights at all down in the ocean because we don't know what their anatomy is. Maybe they could see in the dark. Maybe they prefer the dark. There are creatures even here on the planet that see better in the dark than they do with light. The other
Not
thing
to
is,
mention the level of technology they would have
correct.
available.
But also the other thing is these objects are going at 2,000, 3,000, 5,000 miles an hour. The G's are incredible. And so nothing's being crushed. If there's beings in them, they're not being crushed. So would an ocean depth be able to crush their ship because of the G-force that they're rating on those ships to begin with?
I was just trying to think about the many factors someone would have to take into consideration to live under the sea. And then when we also talk about high speeds underwater, I understand, for instance, that the Russians may have now a hypersonic torpedo. Right. When you get something moving at excessive speed under the water, you're going to hit stuff. Sooner or later, you're going to bump a whale or a squid or a fish. And throw off your trajectory. It's there's I think practical reasons why you would have to go slow. Otherwise, you're going to be leaving aquatic roadkill all over your wake.
Do you know Mark D'Antonio?
I've heard him many times. I don't know him personally.
Okay. Mark D'Antonio, very interesting, very sharp, very on the money guy. Okay. And Mark did, and I don't know if he still does or not, contract work with the government and the military. And on one occasion, he was on board a nuclear submarine. Okay.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, I remember. Yeah, go ahead.
Now, for a guy, okay, that's not in the military, to get on board a nuclear submarine, there are a few things the Navy has that are more secret than that.
Yeah.
And while he was down there, okay, he was in the control room when their sonar man detected a fast walker. Do you know what that is?
Yeah, it's a submersible object or submersed object moving at excessive speed.
A couple hundred miles an hour underwater. Okay.
Yeah.
Now, he was blown away by that. Later, as he tells it, one of the people responsible for him for the work he's doing, the contract work, whatever that was an admiral.
Okay.
So he was having a meeting with this admiral, and as an afterthought, he said, "Oh, by the way, Admiral, when I was on such and such a vessel, they encountered something called a fast walker." And they just notated it and then ignored it. Can you tell me what that is? And that admiral basically told him, well, number one, we don't talk about that. Number two, you won't talk to me about that.
Ooh.
Okay, Admiral.
Yeah.
So yeah, there are things down there, Padre, that there's no rational, easy explanation for. And when you're talking about if they live down there, like Chris said, if they can get here from another star system or another dimension, whatever it is, all right, I'm sure their technology is such that they've gotten past those problems a long time ago. My speculation.
If they're living down there, they have the ability to have the greatest fuel that the universe has. See, I mean, our sun has hydrogen that's converted into helium-4. Well, if you can take water, convert it to, separate the hydrogen and convert that to helium-4, you have the same thing as the power of the sun. Because a lot of UFOs have actually taken water up into their crafts. We've had reports of like funnels and tornado type systems just having water go into the crafts. And we speculate that water could be used as a fuel because of the hydrogen that's there.
Yeah.
And that's what you need for plasma.
Yeah. I just struggle with the many factors. And also, we hear a lot, and I don't mean any disrespect, guys, but if they're able to move, from outer space to here, surely they must be able to insert whatever here. What if they don't have water on their planet? And, then they come here. Are we to assume that they automatically know, oh yeah, we can.
Water is one of the most abundant things in the universe.
Yeah.
Okay.
Water
is everywhere.
Yeah.
What if, that base I mentioned, on the moon, if it's there, what if they were running low on water and they sent their craft down here to suck some up? As a matter of fact, Ingo Swann, the man that designed the protocols for the Stargate program, his book, Penetration, is a must-read. And you can get a free copy online. Okay. Ingo Swann and Penetration. It'll take you to a site where you can get a PDF copy of it. That book details an account where he was taken up to Alaska by one of the mystery people that he talks about, a guy that was calling himself Mr. Axelrod. Okay. To show Swan one of these craft basically appearing out of the ether. Mm-hmm. Then, once it was fully there, mm-hmm. okay, they began firing a series of energy beams around, destroying the whole area, trees, animals, whatever was there. Mm-hmm. Okay, then it sucked fluid up from the lake that had appeared above, mm-hmm. and then boom, was gone. Now, some of this stuff is so mind-boggling, so crazy. Mm-hmm. Your first inclination is to say bullshit, okay? But when you hear these stories time and time again, mm-hmm. I think there's something to it.
That sounds to me like some galactic rednecks in their pickup going and shooting stuff up, and then, getting something to drink and heading home. But anyway, that's interesting. And we've talked now about Greer and Corbell. There's another individual, personally, who I find fairly credible, Ross Coulthart. And he is going to have a special on News Nation, an exclusive 8:00 Eastern Time Saturday, a special program called Hunting UFOs, in which he is interviewing an Air Force veteran, Jake Barber. And Mr. Barber, in a short clip that they have up on YouTube, says, he's a helicopter pilot in the Air Force, and he describes in detail a UAP retrieval mission that he was on, and all that was entailed with that. And, Mr. Coulthart asks him some pointed questions, and he has the answers. And supposedly there is video evidence of this. This is what you see on the screen right now. If you're watching us, shows that there is a wide amount of interest in this. The President-to-be, Don Jr.'s, Donald Trump's son, Don Jr., interviewed Ross Coulthart and discussed this big reveal. And there's a whole lot of buzz about this, that this is going to be what do they call it, a catastrophic disclosure or forced disclosure event that is going to put everybody in a new light on UAPs. Are either of you familiar with this, what might be going on?
I am. I saw Triggered, what it's called, mm-hmm. That Donald Trump Jr. did. It was fascinating. And I will tell you, Ross Coulthart is probably the one right now I would consider more credible than most of the people out there. Mm-hmm. Here's a whistleblower that doesn't say, well, I heard this or some mm-hmm. person told me this. He said, I was involved. Yep. Okay, so there's a game changer right there. I was involved. I went there. He describes the craft as being like egg shape, mm-hmm. Like the Tic Tac type of thing. Mm-hmm. It was down. He says I was about 100, 150 feet from it. I was a part of the retrieval of it. I was a helicopter pilot. Yada, yada. Now, why do I think this might be something to look at, maybe being cautiously looked at or cautiously optimistic about it, is because, one, being the president's son, he's not going to go on the air and do something that would embarrass his father. Mm-hmm. Okay, he has to run this by people before he does it. Mm-hmm. He's not just going to go, hey, Dad, I'm going to go talk about UFOs. Yeah, I'll see you later, son. Mm-hmm. Especially before the inauguration, because mm-hmm. they don't want to look stupid, the incoming president. So this has to be run by somebody. And so he had to have some kind of approval to do this. The second thing is he mentions on that he wants to talk to his father about this. Mm-hmm. And stuff. Well, they've already talked about it. That's nothing there. So when he says that, it's already been done. Mm-hmm. And I was looking at this guy, with part of the interview, and I was looking at what they call micro expressions. Mm-hmm. Micro expressions can tell basically if the guy's being deceptive or not. And it's a short clip, so I can't say honestly that he was absolutely truthful. But I did not see the micro expressions that I was looking for in that interview to see if he was trying to be deceptive. And so I was going, wow, I want to hear this guy. So I think Ross Cohart might be onto something here. Like I said, I want to be cautious about it, but I do believe he might be in the right direction, this guy.
How about you, Don? Thoughts?
Well, Coulthard has done a lot of good work. I've always felt very comfortable with his interviewing style, the way he approaches the subject. And I do recall sometime in the past, before the election, and I can't quite recall how far back it goes, but it was somewhere between the time that Donald Trump left office and now he's going to be back, where he was asked about UFOs. And he was very non-committal. Oh, yeah, I've heard about it. You know, I've seen some of these pilots that talk about it, but I haven't really given it a lot of thought. Well, I got to tell you, I don't quite buy that. All right.
Either.
He didn't give it a lot of thought. Now, look, every time that guy turned around, okay, his facial expression or even a throwaway hilarious quip, he was routinely attacked by the opposition. And I'm sure at that time he was thinking, the last thing I want to do is to give those people an opportunity to tie little green men around my neck.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. I'm sure that was part of his thinking. So it's going to be interesting to see how this shakes out. But that Donald Trump Jr., that guy, he is a sharp cookie. I've seen him on a number of shows where he was interviewed, and that guy has got the ball in the hoop. Let me tell you.
Yeah, and you know, Don, let me just piggyback a little bit. You know, Padre, why would the president's son even want to get involved with this unless there was something to it?
Yep.
I mean, he would. You know, most politicians, you know, up until now wanted to stay as far away from this subject as possible. They would run, but now they're not really doing that.
Yep. I think, too, we know that Mr. Trump, whether you love him or not, is a man who is about legacy. He wants to be known for things. And to be the president, to preside over disclosure of visiting non-human intelligence, I think that would be appealing to him. Yeah. Bill, I see you're in the box. Did you want to share something?
Yes. Everything that's going to happen on Saturday is going to be fascinating. But I will tell you now, as you know, do you know that Toby Martinez and I do our show, Marked by the Sky, that focuses on this topic? Well, we were kind of given the heads up all this stuff was going to be coming out. Well, I'm going to tell you right now, I know what you mentioned, which was awesome, about what Greer is doing and some of the other individuals doing, but this is not over. There's going to be more information coming out after Saturday, and it may take a week or so, but there could be a connection with everything going on. Like you said, a buildup, and I'm not going to get into specifics, but Saturday is just the beginning. And as Lou Elizondo would reference, and some of the other was, it's going to be a wild ride. Buckle in, because it's coming.
Yes, he was part of that program too, I believe. Mr. Elizondo is also with Mr. Coulthard and commented on what this gentleman testified to. And I think, you know, the undercurrent that I'm seeing here on X and other social media is the next 7 days is going to be revelatory in a big way on this topic, one way or the other. And I'm kind of excited to see it. I heard an interview today he's controversial. You love him or you hate him. But Glenn Beck was interviewing a man named Jonathan Peugeot. Mr. Peugeot is he's a sculptor. He's an artist. He's a scholar in symbolism, especially religious and spiritual symbolism. And the question was put to him about what would the revelation of non-human intelligence do to religion? What would be the impact? And his response as one who studies this sort of thing is, so what? All religions are about non-human intelligence interacting with humanity. It's not a huge deal. And I think that those who say it's going to have a shocking impact on religion underestimate the role that faith and experience has on individuals. I know in my own life, I have had a personal relationship with God through Jesus Christ that has contained experiences that nobody can take from me. You can tell me anything, and I say, well, this is a reality in my life, and nothing you can say is going to make me think otherwise, because I've been there and done it. And I think many feel the same way.
Isn't the proof of non-human intelligences coming here do only one thing, which is to once again profoundly describe the glory of an all-encompassing Godhead and his universe and creations.
Yep. And there's nothing to say he couldn't have made something else somewhere else.
Before I bail out, I'll say this, and even Tim Burchett echoed this. The point that people say that we can't handle the truth is nonsense.
Yeah.
The public, society, the world in general can handle the truth. Let's just get it out there to the public and let them.
It depends on what the truth ultimately proves to be.
Well, that's a TBD, to be continued, to be determined, however you want to phrase it. But let's just get this ball rolling. And I'm telling you, and like they say, Lou and some others, get ready. I think we're in for a wild ride.
Here's the one thing that I find interesting about this is that there are scientists right now telling us they're walking among us. They look just like us, talk just like us, but they're not from this planet. And you hear people with the space agency in Israel, government officials in Israel, government officials here, known scientists here, Gary Nolan, other people, they're here. And so if they're here and they're like us, right, it's time to get that out and let the public absorb that. Because, like Don says, maybe there is a species that's hostile, but it's better to know that now and deal with it than it is opposed to keep it quiet and then all of a sudden spring it on everybody where it becomes a panic.
In the Bible, it says that one of the reasons we are to be kind, respectful, and loving is because you never know when you might be entertaining an angel unawares. Now, the word angel in the original language means messenger. So if for Christians, for people who believe in the Bible, we know that these beings have been walking among us throughout eternity. They have the ability to take whatever form they want us to see. And so the cautionary tale of the Bible is, be good to everybody, because you never know when you're being good to one of the messengers. And so that, once again, for those of us who are of the faith, it's not a surprising development at all.
No, and here's the thing. More people are now turning to spiritual than before. There's a new awakening on the spiritual realm. People are turning to God. People are looking at something that say, hey, there's a creator out there. There is a spiritual being that did this. And so with that in mind, I think the government has to catch up and allow us to know what's really part of our universe, what's really part of our being. Whatever it may be, I think it's time for us to handle it. Even even if we have some after effects to it or we don't like what we hear, it's better to hear it. Look, a doctor doesn't, if you got cancer, you got cancer. And a doctor comes out and says, I'm sorry, pal, you got cancer. We'll do this, this, and this. Well, it's the same thing. You got to tell people what's really going on so they can deal with it, and start putting heads together to see how we would deal with this.
But that's never been the government way, Chris. Never.
I know that, but the government is ignorant. I mean, there's a lot of ignorant things that the government does. Look, if you can't, if you misplace half the Pentagon budget and you go, well, guys, I guess we screwed that one up. I don't know where it is. You got to think that, these guys, some of them are incompetent. They're just incompetent.
Let me bring up another subject here, and this again is in the undercurrent of rumblings of what I'm hearing might be part of this reveal coming in the next week. And I know Bill's listening, and maybe he can tell me if I'm on the right track here. There may be the government is aware of a new energy source, perhaps 0 point energy. Now, that, if it is revealed, is going to have a calamitous effect on global economy. Because if, in fact, the government has found the secret to 0 point energy, and for those who don't know what I'm talking about, this is something that Nikola Tesla was working with, 100 years ago. The idea that there is electricity in the environment and in the earth that can be harnessed and propagated to power everything. I mean, you'd be talking about the death overnight of fossil fuels, natural gas, things that basically have controlled the economy of the world for the last 120 years. And all of a sudden that goes away, and people who are invested in those companies suddenly see the value of that stuff collapse overnight. When you think of it in those perspectives, you could see why the government would be very reluctant to have the information come out.
Well, if in fact they discovered 0 point energy or something similar, that's exactly the reason why they will never disclose it.
Right. But if somebody else does, if somebody says, we have this and here's the proof, that's the catastrophic disclosure that I've heard referenced. Wouldn't you agree?
I think that you're right on the point, Padre. I think we discovered 0 point energy. Nikola Tesla discovered that eons ago. Mm-hmm. I mean, J.P. Morgan was the man that actually shut him down. He actually funded that. And then when he got into oil, he couldn't have this. So Don was exactly right, is that, wait a minute, you got this that people can get for free, and I'm making money over here on oil. Guess what? You're going bankrupt.
Yep.
And why did the government take all his files? Why isn't his files in a museum? Mm-hmm. Why isn't his stuff laid out where the people could see it? Because he was onto stuff. But that's not just Nikola Tesla's zero energy. We've cracked fusion, clean energy by fusion, because fusion does not give off any radioactive material. Yet you don't see it. We have natural gas that's clean energy. Yet you don't see it. Mm-hmm. They don't want to push these things that we could be having because of money.
Yep.
And government runs on a lot of money, and they don't want to give up that cash cow that they have.
Right. It would be so revolutionary. I mean, it literally would transform the world overnight. For people who are having trouble wrapping their mind around this, imagine if you had something the size of a standard trash can or an outside air conditioning unit sitting in the back of your yard. You purchased it once, and it powered everything in your house. And in the trunk of your car, you had something the size of a briefcase that would let you drive anywhere, limitless, without having to stop at a gas station, a convenience store, or wherever on the way. You just get in and go. You couldn't think of anything that would be more revolutionary, could you?
No. And the sad part is we can do it now.
Mm-hmm.
and we don't even give it a thought that we have amazing things right now that I hope Trump and his team will put out into the open and allow some of these things that have been in black projects, like Don says, to get out there for the best of humanity. Because think about this, and I just want to say this one thing. If oil was no longer a factor, would Iran be able to support terrorists all over the world?
No.
Okay. Would Russia be able to declare war?
No. Russia would collapse overnight. I mean, they're dependent on energy.
Right.
And well, I can't say that the U.S. would fare much better. It's just that suddenly the whole thing that the economy of the world is built on is gone. And, you know, a lot of us might look at our 401ks 24 hours later and say, you know, but then again, we wouldn't have to have any utility bills from now on. So yeah,
it all works out.
Yeah, it does.
You know, because there will be people like Elon Musk. He's not the only one that will say, I can make something out of this that will be profitable. I can make jobs out of this. I can make a corporation out of this, because you still have to have the machines to do this.
Right.
You still have to be able to convert it and stuff. And, you know, people will come up with the ideas of renting the machines or selling the machines or fixing the machines that do all this.
Well, just the vehicle conversion business alone. I mean,
sure.
You go to this place, they take out your internal combustion engine, slap in this thing, and suddenly you've got two trunks. I mean, what a wonderful thing that would be. Uh-oh, Bill's back. He's going to yell at me.
No. We have a few minutes, but I will say the whistleblower that is going to come out in a week or so, it's going to be a person that's allegedly is part of a secret facility and has direct knowledge of crash retrieval, ET technology, reverse engineering, all the things associated to what you hear about today. But I'm not going to get into too much specifics, because I'm going to let the person that's part of this whole thing and is doing the hard boots on the ground work come out themselves and make that announcement.
Let me ask you one question, Bill. That is this a person who was in a tier 1 operator, a special forces type of person?
The person that is in contact with the whistleblower is former military. I will say that. That's all I can say. I'm not going to get in trouble. So all I'm saying is, yes, what's happening with this helicopter pilot on Saturday is one thing. Then it's going to be followed up by something else that's going to come out from someone, a whistleblower who's leaking information to an individual about a site that is doing all those things I just mentioned. And like I said, that's for the person to come out with it themselves, and then you'll know exactly what I was referring to. I hate to tease like that, but it's to protect what they're doing.
Well, speaking of the military, this past week with all the power outages and everything else, I went in, got one of my dog tags from my military service with a P38 can opener on it. I figured with no electricity, we can't use our electric can opener.
Got yourself a John Wayne?
Yeah.
Well, gentlemen, we have 2 minutes, so I'm going to bail out. Have a great show, and everyone have a great weekend that's viewing and watching. And tune in Saturday night if you're interested to News Nation at 8 p.m. Eastern with Ross Colhart and the helicopter pilot Jake Barber. And let's see what he has to say. And then you reach your own conclusions. That's how I'll put it. I'm out.
Just one last thing we didn't cover tonight. I want to throw it up here, Bill, that Canadian story, and that is that the government of Canada has released its UAP reporting document. You can download it online. It's 16 pages. And this shows that the Canadian government is taking this very seriously, and they're going to be establishing and streamlining their UAP reporting procedures in a way to make it easier, more efficient, and hopefully establish a way that people can can make sure that their reports are getting to the right place and the right science sources are able to analyze them. So that's news from the North. 30-second closing remark, Chris.
I liked what we talked about on this show. I thought it was great, and hopefully Canada will say, "Hey, they're extraterrestrial or they're interdimensional." Somebody put it out there. It's time.
Don, 30 seconds.
I can only pray that we are once again entering a time of logic and common sense. I hope this proves to be true, because good heaven knows we've been sorely lacking that for at least 4 years or more.
Well, on that note, we who are the epitome of logic and common sense bid you a good evening. Thank you for listening to UAP Crossfire. Join us here at the same time next week. Good night.